What if I told you that the story of humanity is not only written in bones, tools, and forgotten ruins, but also in storms, droughts, and frozen winds? Imagine standing in a world where the ground beneath you cracks from unrelenting heat, where the horizon shimmers like a mirage of death. Or picture yourself thousands of years later, shivering in a world encased in ice, where glaciers crush entire landscapes and animals vanish in silence. Between fire and frost, flood and famine, early humans fought for survival. And in these battles against the fury of the earth, we were shaped. This is the forgotten truth. Climate catastrophes sculpted human evolution as much as any tool or discovery. Long before the rise of civilizations, before pyramids or lost cities, there were moments when the world itself seemed to turn against its inhabitants. Prehistoric humans, our fragile ancestors, were not merely adapting to a neutral environment. They were constantly on the brink of extinction, forced to evolve or perish. Archaeology and geology reveal that sudden climate shifts were not rare accidents. They were relentless, sometimes merciless cycles: volcanic winters, droughts lasting centuries, ice ages swallowing continents. Each catastrophe left scars in the rocks, in the DNA of species, and in the silent disappearance of entire tribes. Some scientists even argue that without these disasters, Homo sapiens might never have emerged as the dominant species on Earth. Consider this. Why did Neanderthals vanish, leaving behind only traces in caves and fragments in our genes? Was it a clash with modern humans, or was it climate that silenced them? Why do fossils reveal sudden migrations, where entire populations abandoned their homes and wandered into new lands? The answer often lies not in war or invention, but in the unpredictable hand of climate. In this documentary, we will journey through the catastrophic stages of prehistory. We will see how shifting rains turned lush forests into barren deserts, pushing our ancestors to walk upright and search for food in new ways. We will watch the Ice Age close its icy grip, forcing humans into cooperation, innovation, and resilience. And we will uncover the mysteries of lost civilizations swallowed by rising seas or abandoned under endless drought. Every catastrophe was both a curse and a gift. A curse because countless lives and species were lost. A gift because these trials forged resilience, intelligence, and adaptability, the very traits that define humanity today. The story you are about to hear is not just ancient history, it is a mirror. In the chaos of the past, we glimpse the challenges of our future. For if climate once shaped our destiny, what does that mean for us now as we face new storms of our own making? Prepare to step into a tale written not only in stone and bone, but in fire, ice, and the restless breath of the earth. This is the story of the climate catastrophes that shaped early human evolution.
To understand how climate catastrophes shaped early human evolution, we must first look at the evidence left behind, not just in fossils, but in the Earth itself. Each layer of rock, each grain of ash, each fragment of ancient pollen is a silent witness to the trials of prehistoric humans. Archaeology, geology, and paleoanthropology together reveal a picture that is both haunting and astonishing. Our ancestors evolved not in a stable, gentle cradle, but in a world that was constantly testing them. The shifting Earth. Africa, often called the cradle of humanity, was anything but steady. Around 7 million years ago, the earliest hominins emerged in environments that were radically changing. Geological records show that tectonic shifts lifted the East African Rift Valley, altering rainfall patterns and splitting ecosystems into forests and open savannas. What had once been lush woodland began drying into grasslands. Here lies one of the most fundamental mysteries of human evolution. Did climate change push our ancestors to stand upright? Scientists suggest that as forests retreated, hominins were forced to traverse greater distances across open plains. Walking on two legs may have allowed them to conserve energy, scan the horizon for predators, and carry tools or food. In this sense, bipedalism itself may be a direct response to climate catastrophe. Fossil evidence and survival clues. Sites such as Lake Turkana in Kenya and Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania preserve dramatic stories. In some layers, we find fossils of animals that thrived in wet, forested habitats. Just a few feet higher, in younger layers, the fossils change. Antelope species adapted to dry grasslands replace forest dwellers. Alongside them, stone tools appear. It's as if humanity was being forced, step by step, to innovate simply to keep pace with an unforgiving climate. Other evidence comes from dust records. Cores drilled from the ocean floor off Africa reveal alternating bands of dust and sediment, showing cycles of wet and dry periods. These shifts weren't gradual, they were abrupt, sometimes occurring within a few generations. Imagine being born into a world of rivers and forests, only to die one of dust and famine. Volcanic winters and bottlenecks. Perhaps one of the most dramatic examples is the eruption of Mount Toba in Indonesia around 74,000 years ago. This supervolcano ejected so much ash that sunlight was blocked for years, plunging the planet into a volcanic winter. Archaeological evidence suggests that human populations at the time dwindled to just a few thousand survivors. Genetic studies back this up. Many scientists believe humanity went through a population bottleneck where our genetic diversity shrank dramatically. In other words, much of humanity's survival may trace back to small bands of people who endured this catastrophe. Imagine the fragility of that moment, how close we came to vanishing, like so many species before us. The Ice Age trials. Fast forward to the Pleistocene, the era of the Ice Ages. Massive glaciers covered much of Europe, Asia, and North America. Sea levels dropped, exposing land bridges such as Beringia, which humans later crossed to reach the Americas. Yet for those who remained in glacial zones, survival was brutal. Neanderthals, robust and cold-adapted, thrived for a time in Ice Age Europe. Their bones and tools found in caves like Shanidar in Iraq and Vindija in Croatia suggested people intimately familiar with harsh winters. They hunted mammoths, woolly rhinos, and reindeer. They built shelters and used fire with skill. But as climate swung violently, warming rapidly, then freezing again, their numbers dwindled. Some argue that they could not adapt as flexibly as Homo sapiens, who developed broader diets and more complex social networks. The mystery of lost civilizations. Climate catastrophes didn't stop once Homo sapiens spread across the globe. Archaeology reveals entire cultures that may have risen and fallen because of climate. Consider the Sahara, today a desert but once a green, fertile land. Rock art in the Tassili Najjer region of Algeria depict hippos, giraffes, and lush vegetation. Around 6,000 years ago, the rain stopped. The Sahara dried and its people were forced to migrate, leaving behind haunting images carved in stone. In the Fertile Crescent, the Akkadian Empire collapsed around 2200 BCE, possibly due to a severe drought lasting decades. In the Americas, the Maya civilization faced cycles of drought that may have contributed to its decline. These are reminders that even advanced societies were, and still are, at the mercy of climate's unpredictable hand. The constant push and pull. When we step back, a pattern emerges. Every leap in human adaptation, every migration, every innovation seems to correspond with environmental pressure. The invention of clothing, the mastery of fire, the creation of new tools, even the very migrations that spread us across continents, all were accelerated by climate instability. Think of human evolution not as a straight line, but as a flame flickering in a storm. Each gust of wind could have extinguished it. Instead, those gusts forced the flame to grow stronger, brighter, more enduring. Why this matters today? Understanding this context is not only about looking back, it reminds us that climate is not a background stage, it is the director of history. Prehistoric humans survived because they adapted. Neanderthals vanished because they couldn't adapt quickly enough. Lost civilizations remind us that no matter how powerful we think we are, nature still has the final word. This is the stage upon which the next part of our journey unfolds. In the next section, we will step deeper into these catastrophes, not as abstract scientific events, but as lived experiences. We will walk beside the hunters facing mammoths in the snow, the mothers watching rivers dry before their children's eyes, the wanderers who crossed endless deserts in search of water. Only then can we truly grasp how climate catastrophes did not simply shape landscapes, they shaped us.
If the historical and scientific context gives us the bones of the story, then let us now breathe life into it. To understand the climate catastrophes that shaped early human evolution, we must imagine what it felt like to stand in those moments when survival itself hung by a thread. Scene 1. The Drying of Eden. Picture a lush African forest, teeming with fruits, birds, and hidden streams. For countless generations, our ancestors thrived here. But slowly, the skies grew stingy, rain fell less often, trees withered. The once vibrant canopy retreated, leaving behind open plains where predators prowled. A small band of hominins, fragile yet resourceful, faced a choice: cling to dying trees or step out into the grasslands. Those who adapted survived. They learned to walk upright more often, scanning the horizon for lions and leopards. Their hands, once used for climbing, became tools for carrying stones and sticks. In this crucible of drought, the seeds of human ingenuity were planted. Archaeologists studying fossils at sites like Olduvai Gorge show this transition clearly. The bones of antelope species shift from forest dwellers to grazers, and alongside them, stone tools emerge. It's as if the earth itself forced humanity to reinvent what it meant to live. Scene 2. Fire in the Sky, the Toba catastrophe. Now leap forward in time. Around 74,000 years ago, the sky over Indonesia exploded. Mount Toba erupted with a violence unimaginable today. Ash darkened the heavens, spreading across continents. Temperatures plunged, crops failed, animals died. For years, a volcanic winter gripped the world. Imagine waking each morning to a sun that glowed dim and cold, crops withering, rivers turning to ice. Small human tribes huddled in caves, their fires sputtering against the chill. Some perished, others clung to life through innovation, preserving food, relying on cooperation, and turning to creativity. Genetic evidence suggests that humanity nearly vanished, reduced to a few thousand survivors. These tiny groups became the ancestors of us all. In their struggle, we find the origins of resilience, cooperation, and the deep bond between humans that would carry us forward. Scene 3. The Ice Age Wanderers. Let us step into the frozen silence of the Pleistocene. Ice sheets stretch across continents, winds howl, mammoths trudge through snowdrifts, their tusks curved like ancient scythes. Here we find both Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. Neanderthals, stocky and powerful, build fires in caves, hunting reindeer and woolly rhinos. They leave behind tools, scrapers, blades, and hafted spears that speak of skill and patience. Yet, as the climate oscillates violently, warming, cooling, then freezing again, challenges mount. Prey disappears, resources dwindle. Meanwhile, Homo sapiens prove more adaptable. They craft needles to sew warm clothing from hides. They create shelters beyond caves, even bone huts built from mammoth remains. Most importantly, they expand their diets, gathering roots, berries, and fish when meat grew scarce. This flexibility may have been the decisive factor in their survival. Archaeologist sites like Dolní Věstonice in the Czech Republic reveal remarkable ingenuity. Clay figurines, bone tools, even early forms of symbolic art, all created under the shadow of the Ice Age. Climate catastrophe did not simply challenge them, it inspired them to create. Scene 4. The Green Sahara turns to dust. Now, let us leave the cold and return to the desert. 6,000 years ago, the Sahara was not a desert at all. It was a land of lakes, rivers, and grazing animals.
Prehistoric humans painted giraffes, elephants, and hippos on canyon walls. Families lived by rivers, fishing, farming, and herding cattle. But slowly, the rains weakened. Lakes shrank. Rivers dried. The once green Sahara cracked into dust. People abandoned their homes, migrating toward the Nile where water still flowed. This great climate shift may have played a direct role in the birth of Egyptian civilization. The harsh desert pushed people together, concentrating them along the Nile's fertile banks. Out of catastrophe, culture was born. The evidence of this transformation lies in rock art at Tassili Anajer, in ancient sediments showing vanished lakes, and in the genetic mixing of populations around the Nile Valley. What we see is not only collapse, but also rebirth. The emotional core living through catastrophe. For prehistoric humans, these were not abstract climate events. They were lived realities, days of hunger, nights of fear, mornings filled with uncertainty. A mother watching her child grow thin as food runs out. A hunter setting out into the snow, unsure if he will return. A tribe abandoning ancestral lands, guided only by hope. But it was precisely in these moments of trial that humanity found its strength. Cooperation became essential. Groups that shared resources outlived those that hoarded. Innovation was rewarded. The tribe that learned to weave baskets, to preserve food, to make better tools gained the edge. Even spirituality may have been born in these crucibles. When the earth seemed hostile and mysterious, humans turned to ritual, myths, and symbols, seeking meaning in chaos. The pattern of catastrophe and creation. Across these scenes, a pattern becomes clear. Every climate catastrophe was both an ending and a beginning. The drying of forests ended one way of life, but gave birth to bipedalism. The Toba eruption nearly ended humanity, but may have sparked the genetic unity of our species. The Ice Age froze the world, but inspired art, clothing, and survival strategies. The Sahara's desiccation destroyed a paradise, but catalyzed one of the world's greatest civilizations. We are not here in spite of catastrophe. We are here because of it. A question for us. And so we must ask, were these events accidents of nature, or were they the hidden architects of human destiny? Would we be the same without them, or did climate carve us, sculpt us, and push us toward the intelligence and creativity that defines humanity today? In the next section, we will look deeper into debates among scientists. Did climate alone shape us, or were there other forces at play? And what unanswered mysteries remain in the archaeological record? The journey continues.
Up to this point, we have walked alongside our ancestors through droughts, volcanic winters, and icebound landscapes. We have seen how catastrophe bred resilience. But the story is not so simple. Science rarely agrees on one narrative, and human evolution is filled with unanswered questions. Was climate the true driver of our destiny, or was it only one piece of a much larger puzzle? Debate 1. Climate versus competition. Many scientists argue that climate change alone cannot explain why some human species thrived while others disappeared. Take the Neanderthals. For more than 300,000 years, they endured Ice Age Europe, developing robust bodies, hunting strategies, and even cultural practices like burial rituals. Yet, around 40,000 years ago, they vanished. One theory says climate swings were the fatal blow. As prey species dwindled and habitats fragmented, Neanderthal populations may have collapsed. But another perspective highlights competition with Homo sapiens. Perhaps modern humans with more flexible diets and stronger social networks outcompeted their cousins. Or perhaps it was neither either or, but both. Climate stressed the environment, and in that weakened state, Neanderthals could not withstand the arrival of sapiens. The mystery deepens when we remember that Neanderthals live on, in us. Genetic studies reveal that most people of non-African descent carry 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA. Did climate destroy them, or did they merge with us? The line between extinction and absorption blurs. Debate 2. The bottleneck question. The eruption of Mount Toba and the so-called genetic bottleneck has long fascinated researchers. Some claim humanity shrank to only a few thousand individuals, clinging to survival. Others argue this is overstated, that populations may have been reduced, but not so dramatically. Evidence from Africa, for instance, shows signs of resilience. At Pinnacle Point in South Africa, humans thrived along the coast by harvesting shellfish and using advanced tools even during harsh climate periods. Could it be that catastrophe didn't nearly wipe us out, but instead concentrated innovation in key refuges? This debate matters because it touches on identity. If all modern humans descend from a few survivors, then we are all children of catastrophe, linked by a fragile thread of survival. If not, then our story is one of scattered groups finding different ways to endure. Both scenarios are awe-inspiring, but they paint different pictures of our shared past. Debate 3. Did climate create intelligence? Another question divides scholars. Did climate catastrophes actually drive the evolution of human intelligence, or was it a coincidence? Some researchers point to the variability selection hypothesis. This theory suggests that it was not any one climate state, wet, dry, hot, cold, that mattered, but the constant shifts between them. Populations that could adapt to sudden change survived, while those bound to a single environment vanished. Intelligence, creativity, and cooperation, under this view, are simply survival strategies for unpredictability. But critics argue this is too simplistic. Intelligence may have also been driven by social complexity, larger groups requiring communication, empathy, and leadership. Climate may have provided the stage, but social interaction wrote the script. Which force weighed more heavily? The debate continues. The puzzle of lost civilizations. Archaeology also reveals contradictions when we look at later human history. The collapse of the Akkadian Empire around 2200 BCE is linked to severe drought, as are struggles of the Maya. Yet not all civilizations perished in droughts. Some adopted, like ancient Egyptians, who turned the Nile cycles into the foundation of their culture. So we must ask, why do some societies fall while others flourish under the same pressures? Was it chance, geography, leadership, or something deeper in human adaptability? Archaeology gives us clues, but rarely answers. Each ruin whispers a different story. The mystery of human migration. Climate also seems tied to the great migrations of humanity, but here, too, the evidence is complex. Why did Homo sapiens leave Africa around 60 to 70,000 years ago? Some suggest worsening droughts pushed them out. Others argue it was curiosity, population pressure, or even following herds. Once outside Africa, climate continued to shape routes. Ice sheets closed some paths, land bridges opened others. Yet within these broad strokes, humans made choices: where to walk, where to settle, where to risk everything. Climate may have opened doors, but humans had to step through them. A mirror of our ignorance. What becomes clear is that for all our discoveries, fossils, DNA, artifacts, we still know only fragments. We find skeletons scattered in caves, tools buried in sand, ash layers that whisper of ancient explosions. From these, we build theories, but theories shift like the very climates we study. Was climate the sculptor of humanity, or just the chisel in a larger hand? Did catastrophes nearly end us, or did they simply test us? Did Neanderthals die, or do they live on with us? Each answer breeds more questions. And yet, perhaps that uncertainty itself is the most human thing of all. Our ancestors looked at the sky, the storms, the shifting earth, and asked why. Today, with satellites and science, we still ask the same question. The mystery persists. The emotional truth. Even amid debate, one truth stands above the rest. Our story is inseparable from catastrophe. Whether it was the drying of forests, the freezing of continents, or the shattering blast of a volcano, humanity was forced to change or perish. Each catastrophe left not only scars, but gifts, creativity, cooperation, resilience. What we do not yet know is how deep those lessons go. Were we forged by climate into something greater, or are we still at its mercy, only pretending to be in control? In the next section, we will step beyond archaeology, into reflection. What do these ancient catastrophes teach us today? Can the story of prehistoric humans surviving the Ice Age guide us in facing modern storms, droughts, rising seas, and climate crises of our own making? The answers may not lie in fossils, but in the choices we make now.
It is easy to look at climate catastrophes as distant events. Ashes buried under stone, bones locked in caves, ice sheets long melted into seas. Yet the story of prehistoric humans is not a closed chapter. It is a mirror held up to our present, reflecting lessons we cannot afford to ignore. For just as climate shaped our ancestors, it continues to shape us today. Lesson 1. Survival depends on adaptability. When forests shrank into grasslands, early hominins adapted by walking upright. When volcanic ash darkened the skies, small tribes learned to cooperate and share resources. When the Ice Age froze the earth, humans invented clothing, shelters, and new hunting methods. The pattern is clear. Those who adapted survived. Those who resisted change vanished. This truth echoes loudly in our own era. We too face climate crises. Rising seas swallowing coasts, droughts crippling agriculture, storms stronger than any in living memory. Will we adapt as our ancestors did? Or will we falter like lost civilizations buried in sand? Lesson 2. Cooperation is strength. Archaeology shows that the most resilient groups were those that shared. A tribe pooling food during famine had a better chance of survival than one where each family hoarded resources. Even Neanderthal caves reveal signs of care. Injured individuals who lived long past their wounds, suggesting others nursed them. Human evolution is, in many ways, the story of cooperation. In our age of global crisis, the same law applies. Nations that hoard resources or deny reality may struggle. But humanity united, as our ancestors once united in caves against the cold, can endure. The prehistoric lesson is simple. Survival is collective. Lesson 3. Innovation springs from crisis. It is tempting to see catastrophe as purely destructive, yet history shows that innovation often arises from hardship. The harsh Ice Age inspired new tools, art, and symbolic thought. The drying of the Sahara drove migrations that birthed new cultures. Even the Toba catastrophe may have concentrated human creativity in small refuges. Today, we are challenged again. Renewable energy, sustainable farming, climate-resilient cities. These are not luxuries, but necessities. Just as the bow and spear emerged from scarcity, our technologies must emerge from urgency. Crisis has always been the midwife of invention. Lesson 4. Fragility and resilience. The prehistoric record humbles us. Humanity once shrank to perhaps only a few thousand survivors. Whole species like Neanderthals and Denisovans disappeared. Civilizations collapsed when rivers dried or rains failed. We are fragile. And yet, from that fragility, resilience shines. Out of volcanic winters and frozen wastelands, humanity rose, not only surviving, but creating art, music, and myth. This dual truth, that we are both vulnerable and enduring, should guide our modern perspective. We cannot assume invincibility, but neither should we despair. Lesson 5. Meaning in chaos. Perhaps the most profound lesson is not about tools or survival, but about spirit. Prehistoric climate catastrophes may have been the cradle of human spirituality. When the skies darkened, when rivers died, when the cold was merciless, early humans sought answers. They painted caves, carved figurines, buried their dead with care. Out of catastrophe, meaning was born. In our time, when the world feels unstable, we too search for meaning. The lesson of prehistory is that even in chaos, humans create purpose. Perhaps this is our greatest strength,
not only to survive, but to weave stories, rituals, and values that give survival meaning. Reflections for the present. Look around today. Rising seas threaten island nations, droughts spark conflict, wildfires consume forests. We are not so different from our ancestors, watching the Sahara dry, or Ice Age hunters watching herds disappear. The stage is larger, the stakes global, but the drama is the same. The question is, will we heed the lessons of the past? Will we adapt flexibly, cooperate across boundaries, and innovate boldly? Or will we repeat the mistakes of lost civilizations, ignoring the signs until collapse comes? Reflections for the future. Consider this. If climate once shaped us into the species we are, might it shape us again? Will modern humans evolve new traits, biological or cultural, in response to today's changes? Perhaps future archaeologists, thousands of years from now, will look back and see this century as another crucible, another turning point in the long saga of humanity. Will they say we perished, victims of our own arrogance? Or will they say we endured, proving once more that catastrophe is not an ending, but a transformation? The personal dimension. Even on the personal level, the lessons resonate. Each of us faces our own storms, loss, change, uncertainty. Prehistoric humans remind us that resilience is born in hardship. When they faced hunger, they learned to share. When they faced cold, they invented. When they faced chaos, they found meaning. We too can do the same. Their story is our story, written not in textbooks, but in the fire of survival. Closing reflection for this section. The climate catastrophes of prehistory were not mere background events. They were teachers, sculptors, and sometimes executioners. They forced our species to grow, to connect, to imagine. And they whisper across time, reminding us that the Earth is not a stage upon which we act. It is a character in the drama, unpredictable and powerful. The lessons are clear. Adapt, cooperate, innovate, endure, and seek meaning. These are not just ancient strategies, they are timeless truths. In the next and final section, we will bring our journey full circle. We will summarize the story of how catastrophe shaped us and leave with a question. Do we truly know everything about our origins, or is the greatest mystery still ahead?
From the first trembling steps on the African plains to the frozen nights of the Ice Age, from volcanic darkness to the drying of once green deserts, one truth shines through. Humanity is the child of catastrophe. It was the shifting of forests into grasslands that nudged our ancestors to stand tall. It was volcanic ash that nearly ended us, yet bound us together in resilience. It was ice and snow that taught us to innovate, to clothe ourselves, to build, to imagine. It was the desert winds that drove migrations, planting the seeds of future civilizations. Every challenge was both a curse and a gift. Catastrophes destroyed, but they also transformed. They stripped away comfort, forcing adaptation. They broke the fragile, but they forged the strong. And in this relentless forge, Homo sapiens emerged. Not the biggest, not the strongest, but the most adaptable. That is our inheritance. Archaeology and science remind us that we are not separate from the Earth's rhythms. We are born of them. Neanderthals, Denisovans, lost tribes, vanished civilizations all bear witness to what happens when change comes too swiftly. Yet in the mirror of their disappearance, we see our survival, and the lessons etched deep into our DNA. And so we must ask ourselves, do we truly know everything about our ancestors? Or do their bones, their paintings, their vanished footprints still hold secrets, mysteries waiting to be uncovered? Perhaps the greatest unanswered question is not how climate shaped us in the past, but how it will shape us in the future. For today, once again, we stand at the edge of change. Rising seas, burning forests, shifting winds. The same earth that sculpted our origins now tests us anew. Will we adapt as our ancestors did? Will we cooperate, innovate, and endure? Or will we become another cautionary tale whispered by ruins and remembered by silence? This is the great riddle of humanity. We are both fragile and eternal,
vulnerable to every storm yet capable of surviving them all. The catastrophes that once threatened to erase us instead made us who we are. And so, I leave you with this question. If catastrophe forged humanity's past, what role will it play in humanity's future? The answer is not written in stone or ice or ash. The answer is being written now, by us. If you believe these stories must be told, if you wish to journey further into the mysteries of prehistory, evolution, and the forgotten chapters of our past, then join us. Like, share, and subscribe to continue exploring the secrets of humanity's origins. The Earth's voice still echoes. Are we ready to listen?